We the people. Three simple words, yet they hold the weight of history. These words, etched into the preamble of the U.S. Constitution, are not just a phrase. They are a declaration. They signify the birth of a nation founded on a radical idea: power rests with the people. This concept, revolutionary in its time, has since echoed across centuries and continents. It has inspired countless struggles for freedom and self-determination. We the people is a testament to the collective power of ordinary individuals. It is a reminder that change, true and lasting, comes from the ground up. The Founding Fathers, when drafting the Constitution, understood the need to break free from the shackles of monarchy. They had experienced firsthand the oppression of a system where power resided in a single individual. They envisioned a different future for their nation, one where the people were sovereign. This vision, audacious and groundbreaking, laid the foundation for a government accountable to its citizens. It established the principle that the government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. This idea, radical in its simplicity, became a beacon of hope for people yearning for liberty and self-governance. The phrase, "we the people," is not just a legal term confined to a historical document. It is a living, breathing ideal. It is a call to action, an invitation for every citizen to participate in the shaping of their nation. It reminds us that democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires active engagement, a willingness to raise our voices, and a commitment to holding our leaders accountable. It is a constant process of striving towards a more perfect union. The enduring power of we the people lies in its simplicity and universality. It transcends borders and languages. It speaks to the fundamental human desire for freedom, equality, and self-determination. These three words remind us that we are not subjects but citizens, entrusted with the responsibility of shaping our collective destiny. It is a responsibility we must never take for granted. The American Revolution, a beacon of defiance against tyranny, stands as a testament to the power of we the people. Colonists, tired of oppressive British rule, rose up in unison. They fought not for a king, not for a dictator, but for themselves. Theirs was a struggle for self-determination, for the right to govern themselves. The Declaration of Independence, echoing the sentiments of we the people, declared that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights. This revolution, ignited by the spirit of we the people, sent shockwaves across the world. It inspired other nations to break free from colonial rule. It showed that ordinary people, united in a common cause, could topple even the most powerful empires. The French Revolution, sparked just a few years later, drew inspiration from the American struggle. The storming of the Bastille, a symbol of royal oppression, resonated with the same spirit of defiance that had fueled the American Revolution. But the journey towards a true embodiment of we the people was far from over. The newly formed nation grappled with the issue of slavery, a stark contradiction to the ideals of liberty and equality. This internal struggle tested the very soul of the nation. Could a nation conceived in liberty survive with such a glaring hypocrisy at its core? The answer, ultimately, lay in the hands of the people. The Civil War, a tragic chapter in American history, became the crucible in which the meaning of we the people was forged anew. It was a battle not just between North and South, but between two opposing visions of the nation. On one side stood those who believed in the inherent equality of all people, regardless of race. On the other side stood those who sought to perpetuate a system built on the backs of enslaved Africans. The Civil War was a brutal conflict, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. It was a testament to the enduring legacy of slavery and the deep divisions it had sown within the nation. Yet, amidst the bloodshed and despair, the spirit of we the people flickered. African Americans, denied their basic rights, rose up to fight for their freedom. They joined the Union Army in droves, putting their lives on the line for a nation that had yet to recognize their full humanity. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, marked a turning point in the war. It declared that all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory were to be freed. This proclamation, while a strategic move to weaken the Confederacy, also represented a moral victory. It reaffirmed the principle that all men are created equal, a principle enshrined in the Declaration of Independence but denied to millions of African Americans. The Union victory in the Civil War marked a new chapter in the American story. Slavery, the institution that had haunted the nation since its inception, was finally abolished. The 13th 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution enshrined the principles of freedom and equality for all citizens. These amendments, hard-won through the sacrifices of countless individuals, represented a significant step towards fulfilling the promise of we the people. The journey towards a more just and equitable society continued in the decades following the Civil War. The civil rights movement of the 20th century, led by courageous individuals like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and John Lewis, challenged segregation and discrimination. These activists, drawing inspiration from the legacy of we the people, fought tirelessly for equal rights and opportunities for all Americans. The civil rights movement was a testament to the power of peaceful protest and civil disobedience. It showed that ordinary citizens, united in a common cause, could bring about extraordinary change. The marches, the sit-ins, the boycotts, all were testaments to the unwavering belief in the power of we the people to right the wrongs of history. These acts of courage and determination helped to dismantle Jim Crow laws and secure voting rights for African Americans. The struggle for civil rights resonated far beyond the borders of the United States. It inspired liberation movements around the globe, from South Africa to India, from Eastern Europe to Latin America. People living under oppressive regimes drew strength from the example of ordinary Americans standing up for their rights. The spirit of we the people, once confined to the pages of the U.S. Constitution, had become a global anthem for freedom and equality. The journey towards a more just and equitable world is ongoing. We still face challenges to the ideals enshrined in we the people. Economic inequality, racial injustice, and political polarization threaten to erode the fabric of our society. The rise of authoritarianism and the erosion of democratic norms in many parts of the world serve as stark reminders of the fragility of freedom. But even in the face of these challenges, the spirit of we the people offers hope. It reminds us that we are not passive bystanders in the unfolding drama of history. We have the power and the responsibility to shape our collective future. The future of our democracy, and indeed the future of our planet, depends on our willingness to embrace the principles of we the people. Principles of unity, participation, and unwavering commitment to justice and equality. Today, the United States faces a new set of challenges. The very principles upon which this nation was founded are being tested. Division, distrust, and a sense of disillusionment seem to permeate the national consciousness. The gap between the ideal of we the people and the reality of our lived experiences has widened. Political polarization, fueled by misinformation and a lack of civil discourse, threatens to tear us apart. The rise of social media, while connecting us in unprecedented ways, has also created echo chambers where our own biases are amplified. We are bombarded with information tailored to confirm our existing beliefs, making it increasingly difficult to engage in meaningful dialogue across ideological divides. This fragmentation weakens our ability to address pressing issues that require collective action. Economic inequality, another pressing challenge, further exacerbates these divisions. The gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen, eroding the middle class and creating a sense of economic insecurity for many. This disparity undermines the principle of equal opportunity, a cornerstone of the American dream. It breeds resentment and distrust, making it difficult to find common ground. In the face of these challenges, it is easy to succumb to cynicism and despair. The task of bridging divides, rebuilding trust, and revitalizing our democracy can feel overwhelming. But we must remember the lessons of history. We must remember the countless individuals who fought tirelessly for a more just and equitable society. Their sacrifices remind us that change is possible, but it requires collective action. The civil rights movement stands as a powerful reminder that ordinary citizens, united in a common cause, can achieve extraordinary things. The movement's success was not inevitable. It was the result of countless acts of courage, determination, and sacrifice by ordinary people who refused to accept the status quo. They organized, they mobilized, and they demanded change. They faced down violence and oppression with unwavering resolve, ultimately bending the arc of history towards justice. The labor movement, another example of collective action, fought tirelessly for workers' rights in the early 20th century. Faced with exploitative working conditions, low wages, and a lack of basic protections, workers organized into unions. They went on strike, they picketed, and they lobbied for legislation to improve their lives. Their struggle led to significant gains for workers, including the 8-hour workday, the minimum wage, and safer working conditions. These historical examples remind us that progress is rarely handed down from above. It is fought for and won from the bottom up. It requires ordinary people to recognize their own power, to organize, and to demand change. It requires us to engage in the often messy and uncomfortable work of democracy. We the people is not just a phrase, it is a call to action. It is a reminder that we are the inheritors of a legacy of struggle and sacrifice. It is a challenge to live up to the ideals enshrined in our founding documents. It is a summons to participate in the ongoing experiment of self-government. The American experiment in democracy, while imperfect, has served as a beacon of hope for people around the world. The principles enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, individual liberty, limited government, and popular sovereignty, have inspired countless movements for freedom and self-determination. From the fall of the Berlin Wall to the Arab Spring, the spirit of we the people has echoed across continents. The struggle for democracy is ongoing. Today, many countries face challenges to democratic norms and institutions. Authoritarianism, corruption, and political polarization threaten to undermine the progress that has been made. The rise of social media has created new avenues for disinformation and manipulation, making it more difficult to discern truth from falsehood. In the face of these challenges, it is more important than ever to reaffirm our commitment to democratic values. We must defend freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the right to peaceful assembly. We must hold our leaders accountable and demand transparency and integrity in government. We must educate ourselves and engage in informed dialogue about the issues that affect our communities and our world. The future of democracy depends on the active participation of engaged citizens. It requires us to move beyond apathy and cynicism and embrace our role as stewards of self-government. It demands that we hold fast to the ideals of equality, justice, and human dignity. While the spirit of we the people has inspired progress, we must also acknowledge the ways in which this ideal has been betrayed. The history of the United States is intertwined with the legacy of slavery, genocide, and systemic oppression. The rights and freedoms promised to all have often been denied to marginalized groups based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, and class. The treatment of Native Americans stands as a stark reminder of the gap between rhetoric and reality. The forced removal from their ancestral lands, the destruction of their cultures, and the ongoing discrimination they face are a stain on the nation's conscience. The promise of we the people has rung hollow for generations of Native Americans. Similarly, the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow continues to cast a long shadow over American society. Systemic racism persists in areas such as criminal justice, healthcare, education, and housing. African Americans are disproportionately incarcerated, subjected to police brutality, and denied equal access to opportunities. The struggle for racial justice is far from over. We must confront these uncomfortable truths if we are to live up to the ideals of we the people. We must acknowledge the ways in which our history continues to shape the present and commit to dismantling systems of oppression. We must listen to the voices of the marginalized and amplify their stories. One of the greatest threats to democracy is not overt tyranny, but rather apathy and disengagement. When citizens become disillusioned with the political process, when they feel their voices don't matter, when they believe that change is impossible, democracy withers. The foundation of we the people crumbles when the people themselves choose to remain silent. The low voter turnout rates in many democracies are a worrying sign. They reflect a growing sense of cynicism and detachment from the political process. Many people feel that their vote doesn't count, that the system is rigged against them, or that politicians are unresponsive to their needs. This disconnect between the governed and the government creates a breeding ground for apathy and disillusionment. The 24-hour news cycle, with its constant barrage of negativity and sensationalism, can also contribute to political fatigue. The complexities of policy debates are often reduced to sound bites and partisan attacks, leaving citizens feeling overwhelmed and powerless. This information overload can lead to a sense of numbness and a reluctance to engage in meaningful political discourse. However, we must resist the temptation to tune out. We must remember that democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires active participation, a willingness to engage in difficult conversations, and a commitment to holding our elected officials accountable. So how do we reignite the flame of we the people in the 21st century? How do we bridge the divides, overcome apathy, and build a more just and equitable society? The answers lie not in grand pronouncements, but in the daily actions of engaged citizens. It starts with education. We must educate ourselves about the issues that affect our communities and our world. We must seek out diverse perspectives, engage in critical thinking, and be wary of misinformation and propaganda. An informed citizenry is essential for a healthy democracy. It requires participation. We must vote in every election, from local to national. We must hold our elected officials accountable, contact our representatives, and make our voices heard on the issues that matter to us. We must participate in peaceful protests and demonstrations when necessary to voice our dissent and demand change. It demands empathy. We must listen to those who are different from us, understand their experiences, and stand up for the rights of all people, regardless of their background or beliefs. We must recognize that our fates are intertwined and that we are all connected in the human experience. It starts with each and every one of us. It starts with a belief that our actions matter, that our voices can make a difference. It starts with a commitment to the ideals of democracy, to the principles of equality, justice, and human dignity. We the people is more than just a phrase. It is a promise, a challenge, and a responsibility. It is a reminder that we are the inheritors of a legacy of struggle and sacrifice. It is a call to action for every generation to safeguard and strengthen the ideals of democracy. It is a testament to the power of unity, the importance of participation, and the enduring belief in the power of ordinary people to shape their own destiny. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, let us remember the words etched into the preamble of the U.S. Constitution. Let us draw inspiration from the countless individuals throughout history who have fought for a more just and equitable world. Let us embrace our role as citizens, not just of a nation, but of a global community. The challenges we face are great, but so too is our capacity for hope, for resilience, for collective action. The future is not predetermined. It is shaped by the choices we make today. Let us choose to honor the legacy of we the people by building a world where all people are valued, all voices are heard, and all have the opportunity to thrive. Let us choose to create a future worthy of the sacrifices of those who came before us. Let us choose to build a world where the promise of we the people rings true for all.